Hey there, welcome to Prog Monster. My name is Murph and I am the host of this show, a show that's dedicated to progressive rock, hard rock, heavy metal, and other forms of rock music. So this is my normal Friday night live experience, and rather than doing an album this week, which I've been doing quite a few of the last half dozen episodes or so, I decided to pick a live video that I had watched now about 4 times. So good, such a good video. Like really good production and sound from the whole video. Everything was clear, just really excellent, and the band was amazing. I have to say this: I'd never seen them live. I've never seen them doing anything before. We're talking, of course, here about Gentle Giant. This is a band that I started listening to just before I moved out of my home, so probably around 83 or so. I got one of their albums and 3 Friends, and I remember having listened to it for 2 or 3 times, saying to myself, the production on this isn't great. The sound isn't great. I don't like the vocals. I don't think these guys are that good instrumentally. I think that they're basically just a bunch of guys who are trying to play music and not really knowing what they're doing. Yeah, I was such a great critic in those days. Had no idea what I was listening to, really, to be honest. So then I recently, maybe about 6 or 7 months ago, got the album Acquiring the Taste, and I at first was feeling the same way, and then I started really listening to it, and then I started thinking, wow, these guys are like really good, and this stuff is really arranged well. And not only that, their instrumentation is almost off the charts. So my tune had changed quite a bit, but I still didn't, and I like that album a lot. I love it. So then I started saying, well, now I should see what they're like live. So I took to looking for a decent video online. The first one I found was real fuzzy, and I thought, that was from like 74, 75. I didn't really like that. So then this came on. It's called Gentle Giant, Sights and Sounds concert from the BBC at Golden Green Hippodrome in London on January the 5th, 1978. And the first thing I noticed when they came on the screen, that Derek Shulman was much bigger than he had been in the previous videos I had watched. It looked like his neck was huge and his overall appearance was big. It looked like he'd been lifting weights or something. Anyways, that was the first thing I said, and then they started in with their music. A song called 2 Weeks in Spain, and the first thing that hit me was, wow, this is kind of funky. It's a funky sound. And I never would have thought of them as playing funky music. I always just thought they were very classical-oriented, progressive rock band, and not very, I always thought, not very accessible, but taking a bit of time and listening to penetrate, which is fine because I like that kind of music. It's usually the music that lasts the best. So I never thought of them as being funky or anything. So anyways, it had a great beat, a great melody. The guitar was fantastic on this tune. I had always heard and knew that Gary Green was a good guitar player, but I didn't realize how good he was until I saw this. The second song, Freehand, and okay, the other thing I want to say about it before you get going is I had not heard any of the tracks they played, because I've got a couple more of their albums now, but I haven't played them enough to be familiar with any of the tracks. So all the tracks in this live concert I hadn't heard before. Usually when you see a concert or you hear somebody, you're waiting for that 1 or 2 tracks and then it makes you feel really comfortable and you really get into it. But I didn't know any of this stuff, and I was like gripped to the screen for the whole first time I saw it. just really good. Anyways, the second song they played on the album was called Freehand. The piano and keys on this were fantastic. I thought Carrie Minier was off the charts on this. Great melody. The bass and guitar were fantastic. The overall instrumentation was like, just really good stuff. And that was my first impression of them for the first couple of tracks, was how good they actually were. I kind of knew that Gary Green and Carrie Minier had kind of a following as far as people thinking that they were really good. So I kind of knew that people thought they were really good, and I had listened to enough of Acquiring a Taste and gone back and listened to Three Friends again to realize that Carrie Minier was really actually quite a very good keyboardist, and that Gary Green was quite a very good guitar. But the other guys I had not really heard anything or thought anything of. Sorry. But I was quite taken by how good Ray Shulman is on the bass. He's very good on the bass, like just exceptionally good on the bass. I just was taken back. That was one of the biggest things I got out of the concert, was how good of a bass player he was. And the drummer is quite good too, Weathers. What's his name? J.P. Weathers, yeah. Really good drummer. Like, pretty solid, and like everybody else in the band, he plays more than one instrument. Okay. Then they did the song called On Reflection. And this song just was the beginning of my amazement, when I was just kind of mouth open and awed, because everybody in the band dropped the instruments they were playing and all picked up different instruments. Right? I mean, you had the bass player and the guitar player were both playing acoustic guitars, and then they had the bass player. So the guitar player was playing acoustic guitar. That's what it was. The bass player was playing some fantastic melodies here. The bass player was playing the violin. Ray Shulman, he was playing the violin. Carrie Minier came out from behind the keyboards playing the cello. And you had Weathers came out from behind the drum set, was playing the vibraphone. And you had, who did I miss here? Green was playing the acoustic guitar, I said him already. And Shulman wasn't, and Derek Shulman wasn't anywhere to be seen at the beginning. And they played all these things with such expertise. Like, how can you guys play all those other instruments and then get these secondary instruments and play them as good or better? Just amazing. Just really amazing. And then also on this song, they switched it around a bit, and you had Green actually moved over and was playing the recorder at the beginning, and then Ray Shulman came and was playing the violin. So that's what happened. Yeah, I was a little confused there for a minute. The vocals were quite good. They did this kind of what do they call that? When everybody's saying, I'm not sure what they call it, but you have one vocalist saying a certain thing, and then another guy right behind him saying the same thing, but slightly delayed, and another one saying something quite delayed, and then a couple of them saying things together. Yeah, it sounded really neat. And then they did a harmony part at the end, which was really good. Yeah, just a fantastic song. The next song is called I'm Turning Around. The organ opening with Derek Shulman on vocals, and the Hammond organ solo were really good, and the guitar was really good on this song as well. Just the Same. This is one of the heavier upbeat songs on the album. Very upbeat, quite upbeat, and pretty heavy stuff. The vocals are strong here. I've never been a huge fan of Derek Shulman's voice, but this concert gave me some new appreciation for his strength. I always thought he was kind of a weak vocalist that didn't have the strength to compete with the instrumentation, but There was none of that here on this concert. I can tell you right now, I didn't see any of that. He's a strong voice, man, very strong. Guitar and bass on drums on this track, really good. And the keyboard solo was excellent as well on that track. Then they do a song called Playing the Game. Lots of interplay between the guitar and the vocal, and the guitar and the keyboardist here, like really like back and forth. One will play a little bit, the other will fill in the next part, and the next part they just jump back and forth. That's very difficult to do because your timing has to be everything, or it really sounds messed up. Like you have to know what exactly part you're playing, when to stop, and the other guy take over, and then pick up from him. So there's you got to be very concentrated to get that stuff. And then Derek Shulman was playing this little guitar bit. It was about this big. It wasn't very big, just enough for him to hold in his hand. He was just strumming it, and it was like, I think it had like 3 strings on it. I've never seen it before. I've never seen this instrument before. I don't even know what it's called. Anybody knows what it is, I'd be interested in knowing. He just was playing it intermittently, back and forth between him and the keyboardist. So I'm not sure what it was, but it sounded really cool. Okay, then the next song they did was Memories of Old Days. Kind of an eerie, atmospheric synthesizer part at the beginning. Both Gary and Ray playing acoustic guitars on this throughout the entire song. And the other 3 guys, Kerry Meniere played lead guitar on this part. And the drummer, j.p. Weathers, played guitar as well. And then you had Ray Shulman, who had moved to taking over the bass. So all it was guitar and bass, like 4 guitars and 1 bass. Pretty cool song, and sounded much different than a lot of the other tracks too. Pretty interesting track, I think. And then they did this song called "Betcha Thought We Couldn't Do It," which was kind of a high-paced. I don't know what you would call this song. It's just very different. Heavy track, heavy guitars, and solo by Gary Green. Does a great solo on this. The song has that kind of gentle giant feel to it too. I don't know if that makes any sense. There's a certain sound that I come to expect from them now, listening to it, and it has a lot of that on this track. The next track is really actually not a track. It's j.p. Weathers comes out from behind the drum and kind of gives this introduction to the Funny Ways by talking to the crowd. He's got a little bit of that Monty Python skit kind of humor in him, I think. And then they open with Kerry Meniere with a classical bit of cello and Ray Shulman playing a classical bit of violin. So the 2 of them are together on the stage playing these 2 instruments together. Really cool sound. And Derek at this point had moved to the bass, and Gary Green was playing the acoustic guitar accompaniment also. So it was kind of a quiet song, but really well done. And then they stop. It almost like slows down for a second, and then Meniere runs back to the keyboards and starts playing the keyboards, and then the song gets really heavy, like just gets heavy right away. Ray jumps off of the violin onto the trumpet, and he plays this kind of almost keyboard sounding trumpet solo, which is really good as well. Interesting solo. I've not heard anything like that on the trumpet before. Then Meniere, towards the end of the song, comes out and does this extraordinarily amazing vibraphone solo. You know, that vibraphone thing is more of a drum thing because you have to use your hands really fast and being all over the place. I understand he's a keyboardist and he can move his fingers all over the place, but it's a big jump from playing everything with your fingers and being a keyboardist and then jumping onto an instrument that requires more of a drum skill, and he was all over that. Just amazing, just truly amazing. The guy can play anything, I swear. And then the final 2 tracks, they don't do anything kind of extraordinary on these tracks, except for the really good tracks. The For Nobody is pretty heavy track, like lots of heavy guitar and stuff. And then Mountain Time, which is the final track on it, is quite heavy, but a lot of a funky sound to it. So they open up with a kind of a funky beat, and they end up with a funky beat, which is, you know, really different for a prog band. Anyways, it was a great concert. If you haven't seen it, I highly recommend you. If you really like Gentle Giant, this is like, you got to see this. And if you haven't seen Gentle Giant before or don't know anything about them, they'll blow you away. I was gripped to the screen the entire concert. I thought it was a fantastic concert. It's one of the better concerts I've seen. There wasn't a huge crowd. It was in looked like maybe there might have been 1,000 or so people, maybe 800,000 people. Kind of an intimate setting with the band being able to play all the different stuff that they wanted. They don't have a kind of typical set that you would see from a band like Yes or Genesis, where they play a lot of the heavier stuff, and then at the end they do these kind of hits, but they don't really have any hits, so they just played stuff that just really flows well. And like I said, I hadn't heard any of these tracks before. So usually if I watch a concert and I don't know any of the music, my mind drifts a bit, and I try to pay attention, but it's like fighting a little bit to get it in. Where I didn't have that here at all. I was gripped to the whole thing. I was watching everything they did. Even though I didn't know any of the tracks, I got right into it. Just great. Like this really, for me, this really cements this group as a up and coming group in my music repertoire. I mean, I know they've been around just as long as Genesis and Yes and that, but they're really growing on me a lot over the last year or so. Becoming one of my favorite bands, I think. They may end up there at some point. It'll take a while, because I don't just put bands at the top and then take them out as soon as I don't like them anymore. It's kind of fickle. I was like that when I was younger. But I've had a lot of history with a lot of these bands. I'm not just going to whale them out the door as soon as I find something better. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this video. It was fun to make. Great live concert. Fantastic. This was actually released, did I tell you? Oh yeah, I did. It was January 5th, 1978. So towards the end of the career of the band, but yeah, just great. So please, if you liked it, please like and subscribe. It's much appreciated. And we'll be back next Friday. Will we? No, actually, we won't. Sorry. I was going to make the announcement on this week. I'll be, I will be back next week. So next week, it's not the holiday week. I'm a little bit goofy here. So next week will be a normal kind of week, which will have an extra couple videos going into the following week. But then I'll be shut down for about 5 or 6 days. I'm going on a bit of a holiday, and I won't be around to do anything. So anyways, I hope you enjoyed this video, and we'll see you again next Friday for another live video. Take care. Bye.